She keeps sliding into my sheets, whispering that she needs my warmth part to the cold metal walls of the research station. Hummed with a frequency that made sleep nearly impossible for most humans, but Kyle had grown used to it over the past six months since arriving at the frontier outpost designated as Sentinel-9. What he hadn't grown used to was the alien woman who appeared in his quarters every night like clockwork at precisely 200 hours, when the station's artificial gravity fluctuated during its maintenance. Cycla, her name was unpronounceable in human language, so she told him to call her Vera, which she claimed meant something close to Wanderer and her peoples. Tungwevera belonged to a species called the Thessari, a race of beings who looked remarkably human, except for the silvery blue tone of their skin and the way their eyes shifted colors based on their emotional status. First time she slipped into his bed 3 weeks ago, Kyle nearly had a heart attack. Woke to find her pressed against his back, her arms wrapped around his torso, and her breath warm against his neck when he jerked away and fumbled for the light. She simply blinked at him with those shifting eyes, now a deep purple, and asked in perfect English why he was alarmed. "Need your warmth," she said, as if that explained everything. Spent the next hour trying to explain human concepts of personal space and boundaries, while Vera sat cross-legged on his bed looking genuinely confused. "Your species generates more thermal energy than mine," she explained patiently. "We the Sari have always sought out warmer beings during our rest cycles." "It is natural or not," Kyle insisted. She couldn't just break into his quarters every night. She agreed to leave, but promised nothing about future visits. True to her word, she returned the next night in the night. After Thatby, the end of the first week, Kyle stopped protesting and simply accepted that he now had an alien bedmate who treated him like a personal heating unit. Strange arrangement might have remained just that strange but manageable, except Vera started talking during those quiet hours before Donch told him things about her people that weren't in any human database. The Sari were dying not from war or disease, but from something far more insidious. Their star, the ancient sun, around which their homeworld orbited, was cooling faster than their scientists predicted. Within 2 generations, maybe less, their planet would become uninhabitable. Leths. Why they're here, Kyle realized one night as Vera traced absent patterns on his arm. "That's why your people suddenly wanted to establish diplomatic relations with humans." Vera nodded against his shoulder. Her hair, which looked like spun silver in the dim light, tickled his chin. "My government believes humans might share thermal technology," she whispered. "Or perhaps allow us to settle on one of your warmer worlds." "And what do you believe?" Kyla Sketch was quiet for a long moment. "He believe we are too proud to beg and too desperate not to." Weight of that statement hung between them. Kawa's just a maintenance engineer, not a diplomat or politician, but he understood the implications of the Thessari were truly facing extinction. They would need more than technology, would need a new home. The following weeks brought changes to Sentinel-9 more. The Sari arrived for what Command called cultural exchange programs, but Kyle saw the truth in Vera's eyes each time. A new ship. These weren't diplomatathi, were refugees in everything but Namath. Human administrators didn't seem to notice, or perhaps they chose not to. Either way, the station grew more crowded, and tensions began to simmer beneath the surface of polite cooperation. Some humans resented that the Sari Prosensa. Kyle heard the complaints in the mess hall and rec areas. There, taking our resource there to different or know what they really wanted to defend them, to explain what Vera had told him, but something held him back. Or is the way she made him promise never to repeat their conversations, or maybe 'twas the fear that speaking up would only make things worse. Then came the night everything changed. Kyle woke not to Vera's familiar presence, but 2 alarms blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. He scrambled out of bed, pulling on clothes as his communicator crackled to life. "All personnel report to designated safe zones immediately." "This is not a drill." His heart hammered as he rushed into the corridor. Their humans emerged from their quarters, faces tight with confusion and fear. "What's happening?" someone shouted. Kyle didn't answer because he saw her. Vera stood at the far end of the hallway, but she wasn't alone. Dozen the Sari surrounded her, and their eyes glowed an angry crimson that Kyle had never seen before. Vera spotted him. Her expression crumbled him. "Sorry," she mouthed. Then the lights went out, completely in the darkness. Kyle heard sounds that turned his blood to ice howling and multiple language-esty hiss of doors being sealeds, distinctive whine of energy weapons. Sergeant Somin grabbed his arm and yanked him backward. "Need to move now?" a voice hissed it was. Carter, one of the security of Skyle, stumbled after him away from where Vera and the other Thesari had been standing. "What the hell is going on, Kyle?" demanded. Carter's face was grim in the emergency lighting coup attempt the Thesari radicals think. "If they take control of the station, they can force Earth to give them asylum." Kyle felt sick for a wouldn't she couldn't be part of something like that, but doubt gnawed at Himmel. Those nights, all those conversations. She'd have been using him gathering information about human defenses and protocols. Safe Zone turned out to be the main command center where Station Director Collins was coordinating with Earth Command. Via quantum-linked screen showed admirals and generals, their faces hard cannot negotiate. With terrorists, Collins was saying, even if their cause has meritone of the admirals cut him off Sentinel-9, you are authorized to use any means necessary to regain. What control that means lethal force if required. Kyle pushed through the crowd of frightened personnel. "Wait," he called out. "You don't understand. They're desperate. Their world is dying." Collins turned to him with cold eye. "Sand that gives them the right to take ours." "By Fortino," Kyle said. "But maybe if we actually listened, if we offered real help." Instead of empty diplomatic gestures, Director looked like he wanted to argue, but another alarm interrupted. Thesari forces breaching secondary. Hewlett atmospheric integrity compromised in sections 7 through 12. Carter, Sorthats near the civilian quarters. Families are there. Collins made a decisional security teams engage and protect the civilians as armed humans. Rushed out, Kyle made his own choice. He slipped away from the command center, ignoring the shouts behind him had defined. Varath Station had become a maze of Kalshamans, and the Sari clashed in corridors, some fighting with weapons, others simply trying to flee. Kyle navigated through the madness his engineering knowledge letting him use maintenance shafts and service tunnels that others forgot existed. Found her in the hydroponic space surrounded by plants that reminded the human crew of Earth's. Sat alone, her silver hair disheveled and her eyes cycling through colors too fast to Traquan. She saw Kyle. She stood slowly. "You should not be here," she said. Her voice carried a weight of sorrow that made his chest akinether. "Should you?" Kyle replied. "Not like this." Tears streamed down her face, leaving trails that glimmered in the artificial sunlight. He tried to stop them. She whispered, "I told the council that humans would help if we just asked properly, if we showed them our situation, but they wouldn't listen. Wouldn't listen. The coalition, the ones who think your people will never accept us as equals, who believe the only way to survive is to take what we need." Cal moved closer. "Vera, you know that's not true. You've been living among us. We can find another way." She laughed bitterly. "Hey, have I been living among you, or have I been sleeping next to one human who tolerated my presence?" Seth's words stung because they held truth. Kyle thought about the conversations in the mess hall, the suspicious looks, the casual prejudice about. He also thought about the humans who had tried to learn the Sari customs, who genuinely wanted to build bridgeware. Not perfect, he admitted, but were not your enemy. Ether explosions rocked the station. Beth of them staggered as the floor shifted. Vera's communicator chirped with urgent. The Sari speech. Her face went pale, as pale as blue silver skin could. Gowhead as at Kyleskaj looked at him with eyes now locked into a deep, sorrowful, bloomy. "People have set charges on the station's main reactor. They plan to destroy Sentinel-9 and everyone on it unless Earth agrees to immediate colonization." Rightskyle felt the bottom drop out of his world stats. "Insane. That's murder." Vera grabbed his arms, her grip surprisingly strong. "And I need your help to stop." Ethi ran through the burning station. Vera led him through paths only those Sari had mapped during their time aboard. Twice they encountered security teams, and twice Vera used her natural abilities to convince them to stand down. The Sari had gifts humans were still studying, including a form of empathic projection that could calm or agitate emotions. Finally, they reached the reactor level. The charges were already in place. Sophisticated the Sari explosives that human scanners couldn't detect. Standing guard were 3 the Sari soldiers there, eyes locked into that same crimson Kyle had seen earlier. Vera stepped forward, speaking in her native language. Couldn't understand the words, but he heard the pleading in her Tenethi. Soldiers responded harshly. Of them raised a weapon without. Thinking Kyle stepped between them and Varef. You want to hurt her, he said steadily. You go through me. First, soldiers hesitate. Humans were known to be protective, but this display of loyalty seemed